Welcome to the Folktale Project. This is Dan Scholz. Today we have another love story, and this is a story of love and treachery, and I really enjoyed it, and I hope you do as well. This is The Wooing. In Castle Rhine once lived a knight called Diethelm, who devoted himself without restraint to all the excesses of the robber barons. From one of his pillaging expeditions, he brought back a charming maiden called Jutta. As the delicate ivy twines itself round the rough oak and clothes its knotty stem with shimmering velvet, so in time the gentle conduct of this maiden changed the coarse baron to a noble knight, who eschewed pillaging and carousing, and ultimately made the fair Jutta the honored wife of her captor. The first fruit of their love cost the tender mother her life. Gerda, however, who much resembled her mother, grew to such a noble beauty that soon wooers from far and near came to sue for the hand of the beautiful daughter of the aged Diethelm. But the aged knight made a most careful selection, and many gay wooers had to depart in sorrow. One young man was, however, regarded favorably by the maid, and not unkindly looked upon by the old man. He was the oldest son of the owner of the Sternberg. This young man had contrived to win the maiden's heart, and one day, while Gerda presided as Queen of Love and Beauty at a tournament held in the courtyard of Castle Rhine, Helmbrecht made an avowal of his love. Some days thereafter, the young lord, according to courtly fashion, appointed his uncle Guslen of Reichenstein to woo his chosen bride for him. But Gunzlin, though an old man, was full of knavery and falsehood, and so instead of wooing for his nephew, he ingratiated himself with Gerda's father. Moreover, as the old knight was descended from an ancient family and possessed of much wealth, Diethelm was easily induced to promise him the hand of the fair Gerda. To the astonishment of this worthy pair, Gerda would not listen to the suit of her rich wooer. Her heart belonged to the nephew, not to the uncle. Now, Count Diethelm was aroused, and with the blind fury of his earlier years, swore to his rich companion that Gerda belonged to him, and should never wed the young cock-sparrow of the Sternberg. In her quiet chamber the unhappy maiden wept out of her heart's grief, but burning tears did not thaw the ice-cold heart of her father. In vain, the young lover tried to gain the old knight's favor, but Diethelm merely referred to his knightly word, solemnly pledged to the lord of the Reichenstein. Soon the day approached on which Gunzlen, with the smiling self-satisfaction of an old roue, and decked out to give himself all the appearance of young manhood, was to lead the fairest maiden in the Rhineland to his stately castle. Gerda, who possessed the mild disposition of her deceased mother, had submitted to the inevitable. On a bright summer morning the bridal procession started from the courtyard of Castle Rhine and moved towards the Clements Chapel situated in the neighborhood. Horns blew and trumpets sounded. On a milk-white palfrey sat the fair young bride, deadly pale. She was thinking of her absent lover, who in this hour must be enduring the greatest anguish on her account. Then all at once a swarm of buzzing gadflies came out of the bush and fastened fiercely on the palfrey which bore the fair Gerda. The animal reared and broke from the bridal procession. Boldly, the bridegroom on his grandly caparisoned steed dashed forward to check the frightened animal, but his war-horse, missing its footing on the narrow bridle path, fell over a precipice, carrying its master with it. The dying knight was carried by the wedding guests back to Castle Rhine. The aged Diethelm was also unfortunate in his attempt to stop the runaway steed. The maddened animal had struck him on the shin-bone and wounded him. The servants were thus obliged to carry the moaning greybeard back to his castle as speedily and carefully as possible. The surgeon had a sad time of it during the next week as he attended to the enraged old knight's wounds and bruises. When the runaway horse had disappeared round a bend of the path, a man threw himself upon it, and bringing the trembling animal to a standstill, clasped the unconscious bride in his arms. Helmbrecht, concealed in the brushwood, had been watching the bridal procession, and now came to the rescue of his true love. When the old lord heard of this, he came to his senses and gave the lovers his blessing. Some weeks later, a bridal procession advanced from the Clements Chapel up to the festively decorated Castle Rheinstein. Trumpets were blown and horns resounded. Much more joyfully than on the previous occasion, the musicians marched in front. Upon a milk-white palfrey, as formerly, sat a noble maiden in bridal state, clothed in undulating robes bordered with fur. Her head was bent in maiden modesty as she listened to the endearments which the youthful knight whispered in her ear. Behind rode the father of the bride, sunk in thought, and along with him was his pious sister Notburg, the Canoness of Nonnenwerth. A life of unalloyed married bliss followed this union, and God granted to the noble pair a long and happy life. They rest together in front of the altar in the Clements Chapel, which is situated across the Rhine from Assmannshausen. Castle Rheinstein stands in renewed youthful beauty on the edge of a precipitous cliff overlooking our noble stream. And that is The Wooing, a story of love, attempted betrayal, and, well, love in the end. This is Dan Scholz of the Folktale Project. Don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast, anywhere you like to get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at Folktale Project. You can find us on Auto Radio, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere you like to listen. And you can always head over to folktaleproject.com, where you'll find a new story waiting for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. As always, thank you so much for listening.